I'm trying to get into our back field, and I can't win the normal way because the bales are now in the way. But this is the field our heifers was in, and Sinead and the girls were over last night, and they moved the heifers to just open this gate, and the heifers were able to come out of here and run straight across there underneath them trees and into a paddock on the far side. The heifers knew where they were going anyway, they're well used to it. But they've this field now. We've got a bit of bunching and grass and stuff on it. Really, probably should have topped it and left them on it for a few days. That was kind of the initial plan, but then I didn't do it. If that was grazing ground for cows now at home, it'd be topped, there'd be no question about that. But for the heifers and things, to me, it'd probably be a wee bit of a waste of diesel for the wee bit that's on it. We're not going to be taking any more cuts of this field. This field will be just purely for grazing now. So hence the reason I'm coming in here. I'm going to give it a very, very light coating of fertiliser. It's protected urea we're using now. In fact, this is the first year I've ever used urea at all on the farm. A lot of these fields got slurry. This one didn't get it. So this field got 18612. So the reason for the 18612 is just the lack of slurry that this field gets because of how steep it is. Just that corner kind of bowls down there. And it's a tricky field, and it's not one you want to, well, you want to be careful. You probably could slurry bits of it, but certainly not at all. Alright, so we're down here at the bottom of our hill, just looking at the drone footage that's coming down, because when you're in the field here, it looks like there's a lush of grass. But when you look down from above, you see the dribble bar marks. We haven't had that much rain, that's why. But when you look down, everything looks so different than looking across there. So I'm just going to open this and let them in here. Hopefully they'll run in without any bother. Come on. Come on. Come on. Of course, there is always one. I'm going to put the drone down behind her here. I might move her out. Can't beat it. It's persuasion. Go on. A lot of the time when you're doing one job, you're already thinking of the next. But an odd time, it's nice just to take a second. I like this time of day when you're looking at your animals and you can just take a moment and just see an animal's happy there. And I can tell you now, they're as happy can be. It makes the job worthwhile, and it's very important to take that in every chance you get. Alright, so it's the 26th of August now on a Monday morning. Here are our calves here, and thankfully don't hear much coughing this morning, but they've had a few issues. So you can see the way I'm buttoned up here at the minute. It's not the usual dress code for the month of August, but it is for most of the last 2 weeks. We've had a lot of heavy rain. The last 5 days particularly has been pretty much non-stop here, including this morning. It's just after easing there now. About 3 or 4 minutes ago it was lashing before that. And the sky, if you look at that sky, look how angry that sky is. It's pretty horrible looking. Also, last week temperatures were way below average, and it wasn't just that it was cold, it was a cold wind that was blowing, and that combined with the rain, cattle were shivering cold. It was very, very cold. So our calves, we had 5 or 6 of them started to cough quite badly. So we weren't sure if it was chill related or worm related. So the vet's recommendations was to give them an Ivamac dose, and then also put a powder called CTC powder, which is basically an antibiotic powder. You put it in the meal, you shake it out in the meal, and they eat it. And they were on that for the last 5 days now. So yeah, I don't hear any coughing at the minute. They probably will as they're running over towards the trot when I'm about to mail them, but they seem happy. Definitely an awful lot improved than what they were 3 days ago. But we're behind the cottage here at the minute. I let them in here in just an awkward wee corner. I wanted them to eat this clean before we move them. We are moving them today. But you can see the level of wet. Ground is just sobbing wet now everywhere. At home it's just the same as well, so it's a sad sight, but nothing we can do about it. I'm going to take this fence down here now behind me, do all that, give these calves their meal, We're going to close them down in this field before I take all this fence down and leave it ready that we can come over in the tractor and just move everything now after we get our breakfast, because it's very early this morning. There's that cough. Just have to keep a very close eye on that. Come on up there. Go on up the other one. Go on. What have you got? Go on. Way up you. Go on. I always normally leave a garlic bucket with me heifers and me calves here when around this July, August type of season when you've got a lot of flies. Didn't need to use much of it this month, I can tell you that, because there's not a fly to be seen. The clegs were only around for a very short time as well. I don't miss them buggers, but it's even weird. There's no flies. Just disappeared. It's just too cold for them. With the calves sorted, it's time to tackle into the next job, which is one I wasn't looking forward to this year, and it should have been done long ago. And that is to get these sheds kind of cleaned out. I never got near them, and normally I do them in the end of May just to wipe it off the list, because what happens is when you don't do it, like now, it gets put to the very end of the queue and sometimes not done at all. Now I have all the sheds to wash over here as well, the one over on the other farm, the calving pens, the calf houses, everything has to be washed yet. Cows will probably be going in the next 2 to 3 weeks. It's hard to believe that that time is here again. The walls are quite black. The camera actually makes them look better than they look in real life, but they are quite black. That'll not do a fidget harm to cows, but I like in a house, the reason why I do wash them down, well, partly for disease control and things like that, obviously, but another thing as well I find is it brightens the houses up, especially a closed-in house like this. It brightens it up like night and day, pardon the pun. And I presume the cows probably like it more as well. Another thing I have to do, I've done that one, but I have to change the skylights. Again, the camera makes them look good. I'm just looking at it here through the viewfinder. They're not letting in enough light at all. Hence the reason this house has got quite dark inside. Dark houses mean I'm putting on the lights more, and they're on since 1987, so they've done a long time. So we're going to change them out in the next week or two as well, and just brighten the place up. It also makes it better for me to come in and bit of walk through my cows and check them and stuff like that without always having to turn on a light. And so I have a power washer set up here. I'm just waiting for the barrel to fill up. She's almost there. Let's tear into her. We've done about 45 minutes. I'm just waiting for my barrel to fill up. It normally gets me about 45 minutes. I need to get a bigger tank. I had one of the cage tanks. Unfortunately, the foolish guy that I am, I put it too close to the power washer and the exhaust burnt a hole through it. So they're not rendered that fairly useless. I have to go and pick up another one. But look I get plenty of work done with the full of a barrel, and it doesn't be that long filling. So it's alright to get a wee break too. You can see here on the wall, now that wall there is damp at the minute. When that dries out, it'll be snow white. But you can see how much the difference, the contrast, the black, it definitely brightens up the house. A couple of things I noticed with this shed as well, which I'm not too happy about, and I'm noticing that, well, the girders, if I hit that with a hammer, a big skin of that girder is going to come off. When the girders meet the ground, the centre ones here that are going along the barrier, there's a nice bit of rot starting to come, so I'm going to have to do something about that. I think the best thing to do is to put some sort of a rust killer on it, whether it's a spray or a paint on formula, something that will kill the rust for starters and stop it from getting any worse. And we might have to dig a hole around them and plate them like we done in the post in the yard, which seemed to work out alright. When I get the shed washed out, the barriers, I'm just washing them at the minute. Well, you can see they're not much of a barrier. All we have is a bar that goes across, and that's the way it was just done. There's my father's name there, PJ, short for Paddy Joe, and you can see June 1987. That's when it was built. I'd say it was my sister that scribed that into the wall. It's certainly not my handwriting anyway. But when I get it all washed out, cleaned off, I'm going to get the girls to come up and paint the barrier, that bar there, the whole way across. And these little hinges here as well, just get a wee bit of grey paint and slap it on them. It'll just protect them. I'll throw the girls €2 for doing it. I'll not be mean. Leica's going to give them €2 for doing that job. One's plenty. On a note as well, by the way, I mentioned it before when I'm doing this job, but just in case you're new to the channel, when you're power washing a shed, highly recommend turn off your electric. I have an isolator switch there, but I actually turn it off in the dairy and the milking parlour, and that cuts any power even coming to that isolator because it's in the house too. So I just cut the power to everywhere. And I don't turn it back on again. I've no need to yet because there's no cows in the shed, there's no need for light, so I'll leave it off for a couple of weeks until the cows are going in and let it dry out completely. And one other thing, you might see the radio if you've got keen eyes. Well, that radio has worked in a year. Radios don't last. I only buy cheap ones, but they don't last in here. It's the condensation that comes to the cows, or dust or whatever it is, seems to get inside them and cause havoc with them very quickly. So that one hasn't worked in a long time. The music is great, and it doesn't really matter what you have on, just as long as it's not Westlife or some of that other stuff. Even if it's Oasis. Look, knocked themselves out, they didn't have to buy a ticket. They'll probably be as happy. So that's the only way we're going to hear them. Alright, well, you can probably hear the noise behind me. At least you can see a bit of sun, but the noise behind me, that's wind. Unfortunate thing about that is it's coming from the northwest. I'd rather see it come from the south, but we had a lot of rain last night and it's drying the ground up. It's a lovely drying day, so I'll not complain about that. We are in the first week of September, hard to believe, but anyway, there is our calving pen done. And we've done this whole stall here as well. I'm just already starting to do the other slatted house here. I've almost the first 2 bays done. We're wetting down the calf houses, and this weekend, probably Saturday, hopefully fit to get both calf houses wiped off it as well, and the crush and all them pieces just finished up with. Alright, so it's about a week later now, and thankfully the weather has improved. Well, it's drier, it's definitely drier. It's very cold at night, it's very cold even now as I speak to you. The wind is blowing from the north and it's not very pleasant. I'm still not fully happy with them. The coughing did ease, definitely did ease, but when we moved them up here, I was watching 4 in particular that still had a cough, and there still is a couple of them there that cough every now and again. So we put them into the crush and we checked all of their temperatures. We found the 4 that were doing the coughing had the highest temperatures, but a normal temperature range between 37 and 38 degrees. We had animals here at 38.3, that's fine. I don't see any real issues with that. 2 of them which had almost 39, and then we had another one, which one I was watching, was 40.3. That was concerning. So we knew there was an issue with that one. Ended up anyway going into the vet and getting, on his advice, getting a bottle of Neurodine, and we put them in every day for 3 days, and we give them a dose of that. Just an antibiotic that, look, it's for respiratory infections. The last treatment of that would have been about 4 days ago, and I'd expect it to be completely gone. But this morning when I come over, our smallest calf, the smallest of the whole lot, she's there eating away. They're all eating, thankfully. There's no animal sick, but she was coughing this morning. So I'm going to have a word with the vet again. But I'd just like to see that cough wiped out. You can hear there's no coughing at the minute. But if they run from here to there, you'll probably see 1 or 2 of them that will cough eventually. We'll get to the bottom of it, and we'll get it solved. And I'll share the results when I know that it's better. And up here, the calves have plenty of shelter. Well, they can lay under them trees, they can go right underneath them trees, and that's okay if it's raining or normal style of weather. But funny enough, if it's cold and you get a north wind, which we're getting now at the minute, it actually can make it worse because they lay under the trees and then the wind will come along and it can get a chill out of that very, very easily. So I even know it myself, if you're up and stood under those trees, when the wind is blowing from the north, if it's blowing from the proper direction, the south, it's not an issue, but from the north, it acts kind of like a fridge. Animals sweat in the heat during the daytime, and then when it changes to cold at night, that's when the problems start. Alright, well, it's a new day, and all of the washing is, well, most of it is done. The main jobs is done, so I finished quite late. We done 2 quite late nights. But I only get bits of days done. There's no point in saying a full day, because when you take 2 milkings into it, and all the looking at cattle and doing the routine jobs and then school runs and stuff, well, it doesn't be a very long day. But I have the sheds wire washed. This is the other one here now. So we've done out here as well. It was covered in old green algae more than anything, and just takes that slippiness out of it. Everything here you'll see, including there now, will get disinfected. The cubicles will all get a run of lime. And this shed here is also done. We have the manger in the middle. We have a hollow now has come in our floor. This floor here is probably going to have to be changed eventually. There's our lance there that we use. A lot of people do ask about that. I bought that online and I can't remember where it was. It's at least 10 years ago. It's been good, and all it is a piece of aluminium with what you'd nearly call a water fitting on both sides, where you can just loosen it and just extend it out to, I think, about 24 foot. For doing spoutings and stuff in your house, they're a good joke. But I'll tell you one thing, if you have a bad back, just be careful, because they're hard on the back. When you have it up at full extending 24 foot, although it's aluminium, it's tough on the back, so it is. Our doors is going to need new bottoms. The whole top has got that box iron, so that'll need to be cut off on both sides and just weld a new piece in. That won't actually take very long. We may have to come up about 6 inches on the verticals as well, just to get rid of all that rust and rot that's there. These doors do be quite troublesome. They have a habit of hooking themselves off, and I've had to put several bottoms in them as well because they rot out too. But I'd love someday a very, very simple job, but I should have done it long ago. So take these doors apart, take the sheeting off them, make them a bit bigger, stick a rail on here and on a set of rollers, and put a sliding door on this rather than them swinging doors. I don't like swinging doors. The wind sometimes can take this door clean out of your hand when you go to open it. But there is a plus though with these doors. When I open them in like that there, when the cows are coming into this house, I open them in like that. I have a little thing here where I just pull up and hook it onto the latch, and that keeps it open. That eliminates a place for 2 cows to eat, meaning that the first cow will be eaten here. And that leaves room when the cows come in to get in here. If that wasn't there, what'll happen is the first cow will come in and she'll stand sideways, completely blocking the door. I've seen that happen before. The doors maybe would blow outwards and the cows still come into the house. She'd just stand right across the front, blocking the whole thing. So having that like that open, believe it or not, stops them from doing that and allows other animals to be fit to get in. So there is a wee bit of a plus, I guess, with them. Another wee job I have to do here is this guy here is hanging. He's not going to hold that gate. So that's just the latch for when this gate comes around. It comes in here and this goes through, but it was bolted to the cubicle. So I just need to cut off that steel there that's rotten, bring it down the face of that cubicle, the same here, cut off that piece of steel and put a new piece on and just fix that back into place. Now this is clean and a wee bit easier to work on. But before I go, I would like to just address something really quickly. Yesterday, Tuesday the September the 10th, was Suicide Prevention Day. I've talked about this before on the channel and my own problems that I've had, like anybody else, just normal problems that people can have. When you take agriculture into it, we've had an exceptionally bad year last year, which was very tough mentally on people, including myself. You don't get away from that. And although you watch social media and you see guys like myself, if we're doing a job here and we're smiling and we're seen to be having a good time and just getting through jobs really fast, or whatever that might look like, it's very important to know that's editing. Things aren't near as easy as you imagine, and the camera's not on 90% of the time, and that 90% of the time we're exactly like everybody else. I design my videos personally to be positive, because I know people are going through tough times and the last thing they want is somebody bringing them down. So I try my best to lift people's spirits, have a laugh when we can, perhaps give people a smile and a bit of respite from the torture perhaps maybe if they've went through that week. We'll put a link up to a video that I did last year off when things weren't going so well, and the things that I had to personally deal with. Like many others, it's a perfectly normal thing to talk about. Just a lot of people, like myself, before I was doing this kind of crack, would never speak of these things. That video and everything that surrounded it opened my eyes big time. You can look at the comment section alone and look at some of the stuff people wrote. The public comment section is only about 10% of the messages that we get. And some of them messages we got after that were, well, you'd realise how lucky you are compared to what some people are going through. That was one way I looked at it. So it's very important to understand, no matter what walk of life you come from, no matter what occupation you're in, everybody goes through tough times and everybody will go through tough times. But how you can handle them can change, and just having a chat with someone, no matter who it is, even a stranger, because that's what helped me in abundance, and I know 100% it will help you. And with that, before the rain comes, oh, and it's right behind me, I'm going to leave it there. Take care of yourself. See you soon.